And we are live. And Moan, this is the nature of the live show, is that we're doing this thing yesterday, and we're talking about how are they going to replace Cam Sutton? How are they going to do that? How are they going to do that? What ends up happening 10 seconds after the stream is done?
We looked at each other. I looked at you. You looked at me, and we both looked at our phones like, "What the heck is going on, DK?" And lo and behold, boom!
Oh man, Patrick Peterson is a member of the Steelers, and that's only starting now to scratch the surface. Moan, before we get to everybody's questions and everything else and all the other Hey Moan fare, let's do right by an 8-time Pro Bowl selection who is now wearing the black and gold in theory. What are your thoughts, first of all, just on Patrick Peterson and his career?
It's exactly, number one, heck of a football player. I remember him coming out. I remember watching him. I remember when he was with Arizona, how Coach T held this guy at a high standard when it came down to the play that he has, man. His pedigree is the NFL and football deep. As far as they go, Bryant McFadden and him are cousins. He's a guy that has a very high pedigree when it comes down to the game. But this also lends ourselves also to DK to speak about what exactly his signing means. We spoke about this when it came down to Cam Sutton. We said our focus, in my opinion, now shifts when it comes down to the draft. And Patrick Peterson also solidifies that for me too. That means you're probably going to go after a young corner or something like that because you got a vet guy like him. You got a veteran in Minka. What better group to surround a young guy around than with those types of guys? In my opinion, if Minka keeps it up, probably going to end up being a Hall of Famer in some capacity. He's playing well enough to be very respected, highly regarded in that conversation. Got to stack up more years. Pat Peterson, to me, if not a first ballot DK, he gets in on the second ballot, no later than the third ballot when it comes down to his body of work in the NFL. You can't say that he wasn't one of those island guys, DK, when it came down to Patrick Peterson pretty much shutting down one side of the field.
Oh, there's no question about that. And when you talk about guys who have been among the better secondary performers in the National Football League over the past decade, he's on a very, very short list.
Oh, yeah.
And for him to be with the Steelers, is, from a name standpoint alone, a little bit overwhelming,
Yeah.
But it also kind of confuses things in my head because he is the age that he is, okay? And that is really, really old.
Yeah.
In cornerback years. And so when I look at Cam Sutton and I look at the fact that he's completely replacing Cam Sutton, other than in the cap space, Cam would have taken up a lot more, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I see a couple things. One is that, okay, Cam's not Patrick Peterson. Okay?
No.
However, Patrick Peterson doesn't have Cam's age and doesn't have the ability to go jump inside. Yeah. And that's going to be a thing that the Steelers are going to have to address separately because they clearly did not trust Arthur Millette in certain coverage situations because they kept bringing Cam Sutton to the inside. So I almost feel like we need to see, as ridiculous as it sounds, we need to see Patrick Peterson come into Latrobe and show everybody, hey, I'm still the player that the Vikings had this past season, which would be plenty good enough.
Yes, it would, man.
Good enough. You know what I mean?
And my thing with Patrick Peterson is this, DK. He's a guy that we spoke about yesterday without even speaking about him. To me, you're getting coverage, DK. I think this attack right now is going at two teams in our division, specifically Cincinnati and specifically Cleveland, for that matter, DK, because they are the passing threat to get you past the loophole of trying to get into winning your division year after year. And that's where I see the significance or the value in signing a guy like that. And I'll just say this too, as far as his age goes, guys train different. You know, I've been saying that for a very long time. He's a guy that, knock on wood, man, hadn't had anything crazy happen. And he's available. So that's where I look in and say to myself, a level of consistency, a level of play, even if there is a slight bit of a drop-off, you still get some quality and you're still going to have some guys. This is my thing that I've always noticed too. It's not many quarterbacks that are going to go at that name guy because that guy got that name for a reason.
Yeah.
Meaning Patrick Peterson, Jalen Ramsey, Darrell Revis, all of those types of dudes get a name for a reason, and they hardly ever go at that side. Have we ever seen Richard Sherman get picked on like this?
No.
We haven't, have we?
No.
And I think
it's funny how that
point.
works too, because the film and everything else would suggest that obviously Richard Sherman, like every other human,
right,
had a peak and then fell off a little bit. But the name hung. The same thing went for Darrell Revis, Ty Law, these guys that have been. I'm just dropping Aliquippa names.
I know. Well, we know these names.
but we know them, and we respect them, and the respect that was had for them never faded. Never faded.
That's the same way you can recycle a quarter. And I say this, and I know one is not like the other, but Brady, the conversation of him still being able to come back. Why? Because he's the name. And I'll say this, as long as Patrick Peterson plays above the line, as Coach T like to say, there is no in between, either above the line or below the line. If he's above the line, this is a valuable signing for us as a team.
Yeah, to me, the strongest example was that in Ben's final 2 seasons, okay, when we would do these coaches calls in the middle of the week with the other team's head coach and the players, and all they would talk about is Ben's mobility and how you would just fall off Ben and you try to tackle him, but he's still slippery. No, he actually wasn't at that stage. Take it from this guy over here. He wasn't at that stage.
No, he wasn't. But this is the thing, though, too, when it came down to Ben, that matter of them wanting to still get after him because he was Big Ben, it doesn't leave you whatsoever, DK. And that's the beauty of having a guy like Patrick Peterson being signed. What is it going to look like? Because we play a different style of ball in Pittsburgh. And I think we both found out yesterday, he can't ask for the number 7 either, DK.
No. Do you believe that became a thing? Like even for an hour on the internet?
Those quick edits, man, from players trying to put their jersey over certain numbers. He learned out the hard way yesterday. Still a Nation does not play about number 7.
If you're watching our live show for the first time, the way this works, if you'd like to be one of those happy people that are popping up on the bottom and participating, go over to YouTube Live, go to Facebook, and just leave a comment. And when we come back here on the Ramon Foster Show, we're going to take your questions and comments and criticisms and everything else.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
This portion of the Ramon Foster Show is always brought to you by the Get Go Cafe and Market. Where? How many expert chefs, Moan?
3.
3. It takes 3 of them to fine-tune every detail so that every sub, burger, salad, wrap, drink, and app is crafted for craveability. Order your favorite entry at the Get Go Cafe and Market today. We're going to get started here with Matt Hanford over in England. He says, "Hey, Moan!" See, that's how you do it. Even in it traversed the ocean.
Yeah.
Do you think that Presley Harvin III will make the grade this year, or might we be looking for a new punter?
Very good question. We hardly ever get many specialist questions other than field goal and extra point. But Presley, I'll say this: he's got to show and prove. He does. His level of consistency and hang time and directional kicking must be elevated this year. It was cute last year. It was awesome. The team supported him and everything that he needed. But y'all, I'll say this: the football world is a very sticky business. Do you understand me? And I think if we're getting anything less than what we expect out of him moving forward, he will be in a competition when it comes down to it, because field positioning, especially when it comes to special teams and defensive holding their end of the bargain, DK, that is big time. I'm telling you, that is so freaking huge, man. So, yeah, I think he gets a little bit of pressure this year.
Brent comes up with the irrational request here for you to give a flex.
Flex. I'm telling you, it's not what it used to be, but it's still there.
I like it. Staying in England, Owen says, Steelers free agency so far has been underwhelming. Peterson's too old. The Google guard, I don't even know what that means. So much linebacker talent missed. Owen is down, Moan. How can you pick him up?
Yes. Owen, all the way from the UK, my brother. Listen, we're always like this. Teams that are spending a whole lot of money right now means they're trying to become competitive. You are fans of a team that has a standard, and it's not to sound cliche, but there is a level of consistency inside of the locker room. We as players always used to snooze when it came down to this time of the year because it wasn't going to be much traction. You knew if there was a contract issue, they were going to get it signed, or the guys that they really wanted back, eventually they're going to get extended that contract. So that's just how it goes. Oh, I love that too, Justin Work. What did he call it? Pittsburgh?
I love it. That is great here. Eric says, hey, Moan, what does newly acquired Nate Herbig bring to the offensive line? And that obviously was the signing for today. And it is, by the way, before you get to Ramon here, something that both of us on this show had been forecasting for a while, that you would not see them chasing replacements for their starters. You would be seeking support.
Yes, 100%. Will there be a situation where they one of the starters, and I'll probably just put a name on it because everybody else is kind of paid up, and Nate plays guard primarily. This will probably be a push to Dotson, at least at the minimum. At the minimum, when it comes down to it. We spoke about this, what was it, yesterday, DK? There has to be depth added to this offensive line. This isn't a big splash. This is a guy that's been in the league for, I think, almost 5 years now. When it comes down to him, Herbig, and now he's in a position to get some good backup money. That is backup guard money in the NFL, and I think that's solid. That line, y'all, I think, let me say this. You don't catch a line that only has one player miss one snap as far as the starters go. That doesn't happen. That's rare. So you need depth, man.
Yeah, no question about that. David sends love from Israel. We're doing the whole international stuff. It's fun to have the kind of the scope and take advantage of the scope that Steelers Nation has, and because it's not just it's not just Pittsburgh, it's not just the United States, it's the planet.
Yeah, yeah, it is, seriously.
Brent says, funny mentioning Pittsburgh with Ted Lasso back tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm a Ted Lasso fan too myself.
Is that right?
Yeah, 100%.
Nation asks, would Taylor Lewan be a good signing for one more lineman?
No.
Why is that? You would know.
Taylor's already in retirement mode when it comes down to where he has his body at this point. I can't see him bulking up over the course of the summer to get back to playing mode. Everybody I know around him in Nashville has pretty much said he's dropped a lot of weight when it comes down to his next phase in his life. So I doubt that being the case. He is playing with different fan bases by saying, hey, would you guys consider me? But it's hard for players to say I'm done. And I think that's probably what he's dealing with a little bit. Guys are very finicky when it comes to that type of stuff, DK.
Mm-hmm. Tycho asks, do you think Patrick Peterson can teach the Steelers how to draft and develop future DBs via his play?
This may be a bigger role for him than actually playing too, TBC, because this is the thing. It's only so much a coach can tell a guy as far as how to play the position. But when you have a very respected veteran like Patrick Peterson in your room, and me personally, DK, unless something changed, I think we're going after first-round corner in some capacity. And we're getting there. And when you have a guy like him that can speak player to player and give them an understanding, hey, look, I made that same mistake. It's okay. Just keep going. Like, the coaches can coach and talk to you and have you watch film all day long, but nothing matters more than how your teammates accept you and how they feel about you as a player. I'm telling you, this move, I think, can catapult whoever the young guy is going to be moving forward when it comes down to me thinking they're going to draft a first-round corner.
Thanks to my brother George Vukovic there for the nice words.
Hey,
there.
Georgia boy.
Danny says, "Oh no, you didn't bring this up." Danny says, "Hey Moan, did DK ever report something that you didn't like? DK speaks the truth, and sometimes that's tough to hear."
That's interesting. You know what? I don't know if DK did, but this is and I'm sure you probably have, but this is my thing. If you did or did not, you came right back into the locker room the very next day. It was never an issue. Guys have issues with reporters that say stuff but never come inside the locker room. You could never take that away from DK when it came down to writing the hard articles or what they see on film. That's one thing that guys respect. If you say something, come in there and tell me at least if I have a question for you. DK always was in the locker room.
Yeah, that's one of the things. My mercurial relationship that I had with Mike Mitchell was a perfect example. Mike Mitch read everything. And early on, when things weren't going well for him, and I kept making these references to how he couldn't get his hand on the football, that he had no PDs like 10, 12 times, and he just lost it at one point. And I was still in there. And Bert Loughton, head of media relations, comes up and says, hey, Mike Mitch would like to talk. Let's take it out in the hallway so that there's no, Ryan Leaf scene or something like that. We talked it out. Everything was fine. The relationship with him never changed. As long as he knew that I wasn't picking on him and that I was in the room. I could say that in your final season, you were not your peak self. You'd be the first one to admit that.
And I knew it. I said it time and time again. They allowed us to stay together probably a year or two longer.
A year too long, yeah.
And I'm appreciative of it, though. I'll say that.
And I would reference it in the writing. It was respectful. It was performance based. It wasn't effort, because a person is around long enough, you understand whether they've just kind of quote unquote lost it or whether they're not trying hard. That's a very, very big difference here. I love this one here from Brian. He says, "Hey, Moan." Boy, is this good. Patrick Peterson said the game has slowed for him, and he's more of a cerebral player now. I mean, he relies on his brain as much as anything else, which you don't, you think of that position, and it feels like it's so raw from the guy, everybody's got to be able to run a 3.0 40 or something. Did that happen for you?
It did. And I'll say this, as a player, it should slow down for you. I give it about year 5 to 6 is when the game really, there's not much you hadn't seen when it comes down to your career. Guys who find that mode of saying, look, I know what they're going to do before they're going to do it, they stick around for that long. You become crafty in your movements, even if you just so happen to lose a tick in your speed and your time. The cerebral aspect of being able to play the game makes up for that. So yeah, I agree with that when it comes down to a guy like Patrick Peterson. You can't be, I know we get labeled as Neanderthals when it comes down to it, and caveman, but guys are very smart when it comes to their craft.
Oh man, Mitch says, "I fed my koala early this morning so I could catch Hey Moan live." This is and then he puts a little Australian flag there at the end. We get it, Mitch.
Hey, that's a flex right there, Mitch. You fed your koala? I didn't even know you could have them as pets.
We absolutely get it here. Alex says, "Hey, Moan, sending much love from Germany. What is going on here today? It's a takeover, an invasion. Do you expect to see Larry Ogunjobi back in Pittsburgh in 2023?
That's tough because you got to see what Larry's market is going to be. I think Larry's in a position where he's at two tails right now. One, knowing Pittsburgh can take care of him because of his injuries and because he's a seasoned vet now, so it's value in that. The other aspect of it for Larry Ogunjobi is this is his next time getting to free agency somewhat healthy. Where's the money going to be for him? Like, he really got to make that decision, especially when he's gone from one team to another now. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not locked into the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, if the check is high somewhere else, I can see a guy like him who's in that range of, 5 to 7 years, going somewhere else for the bag.
Larry is a funny case too, because Larry, and he and I had a talk very late in this past season, and you can tell when somebody gets a little bit tired of moving around. He's moved around way more than most do for the first 5-7 years of an NFL career. Usually that happens a lot later. He wants to stay. To stay. And he feels like he proved himself to the Steelers. We'll see how that pans out. James is getting greedy here. He says, if we're not able to sign Ogunjobi, how about Calais Campbell? Ooh. If anybody who doesn't know, Calais was just he was cut by the Ravens. It was a cap cut, and they made that clear in the press release, leaving the door open to Calais returning. But you want to, like you were talking about earlier in the show, there are names.
There are names, but
names.
That's one when it comes down to defensive line. I wouldn't necessarily want to go at that, especially when you're not as stacked as you need to, as far as trying to get guys that can be every down guys. I don't think Calais is at that point where he wants to be an every down defensive lineman. And that's where you got to kind of find the issue in yourself. Like, give me Larry Ogunjobi before you give me Calais Campbell. And I love Calais as a player, but Pittsburgh needs a rep after rep type of guy instead of a situational defensive lineman.
Yeah, no question about that here. Brent says, hey, Moan, have you watched Mike Tomlin on Ben Roethlisberger's YouTube show yet? I wanted to know your thoughts on him identifying the 2010 defense being the best.
I hadn't seen it, but I agree with him before we even go any further. That defense carried us in a lot of different ways. That was also where that 2010 era is about where this 2021, 2, and 3 offense is for us. Same situation. Hoping and praying that you grow up in enough time to really seize the moments where the offense and the defense are on the same page. We were really good, but we weren't on the same page offensively. We couldn't get it going the way we needed to week in and week out. There'd be times where we'd be praying, please play Renegade so somebody go get a turnover for us because we can't make anything happen. That's what that 2010 defense was. Am I right, DK, on that one?
Oh, it was, I haven't seen the whole show, but I have a couple things to say about it. One, the part that I did see, the snippet of it that made it onto Twitter, was Tomlin saying that the 2010 defense not only was the Steelers' best, but also just basically changed the game because he referred to them. Oh, what was the exact term? Maybe somebody who's watching live can help me out. It was a street fight. He just said that's all they were doing out there, and they had to change the rules in order to protect other teams from developing a defense like that. The other one that I just have to throw in here,
go ahead.
I cannot believe how good Ben's gotten at this. And for anybody who thinks, it's a competition, it's a competition. It's a big YouTube, man. Ben's gotten really, really good at this really, really fast.
No doubt. He has. And I love it because his perspective is way different than almost anybody else's. Not many times a Hall of Fame quarterback does this soon after his career. So it's good that we all get a piece of that now.
No, I totally agree with you on that. Dwayne says, hey, Moan, I'm going to need you all to get Coach T. How do you let Ben beat you guys? See, right after he said it's not a competition here, Dwayne comes in and there's this finger wagging at us.
I know. No, it's all good. There's no telling how backlogged that interview was, number one. But I don't want to bother them right now because right now it's draft season. So we'll get them post OTAs or the middle OTAs or something like that. This is a busy time of the year. We're talking about free agency here, guys.
Yeah. Here. Greg says that he loves you, Moan. See how that goes? Dwayne does come through with the explanation. He said that they changed the rules for player safety. Yeah.
I'm telling y'all, if y'all could have went inside those locker rooms and meeting rooms with us, like there wasn't anything like a bounty, but there was just an affinity for just violence. And it made us better. Like that was also the birth, honestly, of Brett Kiesel because of what he brought to that. You remember that? Kiesel took off because he was just dogging folks behind that defense.
Yeah. It's funny how that works. There's a certain matchup or a certain type of player that fits a certain generation or a certain trend. I can think of guys like Hokie Bro is one of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Where you put Chris Hoke in a combine setting, he wouldn't be your nose.
You wouldn't even look at him. Right.
You'd think he was there to help out. Okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely not.
But he comes into that era and he does that stuff that he does, and it's different. You and Vinny were talking about it.
Yeah. No. It finds a way of really showing itself. And Pittsburgh, to me, is a breeding ground for that more than other organizations, DK. I think I can say that with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, that's right. Justin has a problem, Moan. He says, "Hey, Moan, my boss wants to know why I'm no longer available from 4 to 4:30."
Hey, tell him for personal
Written
reasons
excuse.
that he don't have to worry about. Yeah, I'll write you an excuse at the end of this.
That's it here. It wouldn't be a pre-draft show without somebody bringing up Jordan Addison. And Matthew Mamone says, I know, I do the same thing. Hey, Moan, if Addison is there at 17, do they take him to make Kenny happy?
This wide receiver class is so polarizing. Some love it, some hate it, some don't care about it. Some say they're going to be very good role players. I like Addison. Also, of course, you see me with my orange on. I like Jalen Hyatt too. There are some guys in this group that are really good. They got speed, they got hands. But what I appreciate about this group right here, almost all of these guys that are in it has caught a lot of footballs. One thing I've learned in this league is go for the guys that have a knack for getting the ball in their hands. These guys do. Addison has also come out and said that, hey, it wouldn't be bad for me to go to Pittsburgh. Well, that's also because Pittsburgh is picking at 17. I love to be a first round at 17 too. But the relationship that they have, whether it be 17 or 32, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Now imagine Damontae, George, and friggin' Jordan Addison with Pat. That does sound quite dangerous, DK. But again, I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, I think you do that if you trade Deontay Johnson, and I think, or if you do draft Jordan Addison, which I don't think they're going to do. Look at all of their interviews. Look at all the guys that they focused on. Moan, you were down there with them in Mobile, Alabama. You were on the field with them, and I never once heard you say, "Oh yeah, they sound really interested in this particular wide receiver."
Well, and it wasn't much down there either. But I'll say this: have trust in Pittsburgh that they always find a wide receiver. I have fans of other teams asking me, "How do you always find these wide receivers?" We always do. I don't know what their criteria is, but they always seem to find it, whether it's Jordan Addison or somebody else.
Yeah, Juju, Chase, everybody. Mike Jones says, "Hey, Moan and DK, do we take Nolan Smith at 32 because of the injuries and that graceful speed in the 40 and move him to inside linebacker, smart player, hungry and determined, sideline to sideline, maybe?" Here, I'll start this one, Moan. My feeling is that this team is now probably more poised than ever to end up with an inside linebacker.
Yeah.
Somewhere in these first three picks. You've probably heard mention today of guys that they've been interviewing. They happen to be inside linebackers. There is a perpetual search for Ryan Shazier somewhere. Still.
We've even had safeties try to play linebacker in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
With that being said, Nolan Smith, to me, I think is probably top half of the draft. Him running, what was it, 4.39, whatever it was. That's the measurable that everybody's looking for. Will he be a middle linebacker? I don't know if he's that comfortable in the middle like that. Watching him at Georgia, my thing is this: if you say, man, this guy can be Micah Parsons, well, a lot of people didn't realize Micah Parsons is going to be that way either, being an outside rusher, inside rusher. Can Pittsburgh have that rover floating type of dude as a young guy? That's tough. Mike Jones, I honestly just don't think he's going to be there. I love to have the talent, though.
Yeah, that's one of those. Mike Tomlin refers to those players as rare air. Whenever he gets into there, you've heard him use that.
Yeah.
That was the way he described Shazier upon his drafting.
Yeah,
it was rare air. Sam's Bro says so many people are harping on why didn't the Steelers get a linebacker? Why didn't they get a linebacker ad nauseum? Lord, it's only day 2. People, give Khan a chance. Yeah, it's day 2. I get that, but I also get, if you looked at the remaining board, I mean, it goes like this now every day.
It does, and now you're going to find yourself getting some of those favorable deals done where guys get a 2 for 10. I saw a cat yesterday get 2 for 11 to go to Miami. Like, that's what you're looking for right now. And this is also where we're at too, is where I look at the Patrick Peterson situation is that's not long term. I think Pittsburgh is in the business of doing something long term when you speak about those positions. Am I right, DK? Like, signing Herbig earlier today was a 2 to 3 year depth non-starter role. You feel me? Like, that's where I see that one. Yeah.
I do completely. You're going to love this one here. We can only take a couple more today. Brian says, "Hey, Moan, why do people hate Damontae?"
Because you expect him to do his job more consistently. And he has certain situational plays that aren't situational to him. That's why. You see him running backwards. You question, is he tough? You see him drop the ball because he's trying to get up the field. Just catch the freaking ball. His wide receiver mistakes, I think, is what bothers people the wrong way. I love Damontae as a player and just as a teammate. He's really good. It's just refining his role. One of those things where you see yourself doing too much. I think that's what it is. Pittsburgh Toddy said it right. Drops and running backwards. People hate saying that on the football field unless you're a scrambling quarterback.
Yeah, I will say in Damontae's defense that off the field, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me on this one, this is a pretty good dude.
Really good dude.
He does some stuff out there that makes you nuts, some of which some of you are bringing up here.
I got one. No, I wouldn't go that far at James Lawson. Damontae doesn't have – yeah, he does.
He does.
So you got to think. He went from being the youngest dude in the room to the oldest, too. So him navigating this –
just like that.
Himself – Damontae set out early in his career, DK, to be the guy. And I got to give it to him, whether he's one or two, he is specifically in Pittsburgh because his salary says so right now. When I saw him this past year after I saw you at the shop, he came up to me and he smiled. And I was just like, I told you it was going to happen. He was like, you did. He was like, and I'm making it happen. Like his goals to get to that point, I've always had a really good relationship with Damontae. And I think last year, reshifting of that room kind of, moves it in a different way. He got to grow up a little bit more, though, as far as his career as a player on the field, but he got it in.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not one thing to never, ever do, my friends, in general, is when a player gets overpaid, please don't hold it against the player, okay? Listen, if I told you right now, every one of you who's watching this show, you could come work for DK Pittsburgh Sports, and we would pay you $900,000 a year to tweet about the Steelers, and you come in and you are the worst tweeter we ever had. Okay, like we don't even have tweeters, but we would have a tweeter, and you would be terrible at it.
Yeah.
Should people hate you, or should they be mad at me for blowing almost $1 million on a lousy tweeter? That's completely my fault.
Yeah, no, DK. I got one real quick too. Brian Powell asked this from earlier. Hey, Moan, does the signing of Jets guard today mean Kendrick Green will be cut? I'll say this: Kendrick Green got to go, and he's got to go fast because I believe Herbig is a guy that can probably play center. If he don't find a position really fast, DK, then you're going to find yourself as a camp cut at that point. And he's got zero to hardly any film on him post his rookie year. That ain't a good look.
No, I agree with you on that one. This is
Herbig.
let's see
I'm messing up his name, Herbig.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's not picking on Kendrick Green. It's not that we don't like him or anything like that. There's nothing not to like about young Kendrick Green, okay?
Oh.
And Kendrick Green, somebody went to his school and watched him playing another position and said, yeah, let's make him a center. Oh, and then let's give him Marquise's number. And then let's just have him start right away. That's not on Kendrick Green. Maybe.
And in
go ahead.
It takes about 2-3 years for starting NFL linemen to kind of get it together when it comes down to understanding the game, get their footing underneath them. I promise you, most guys in the trenches don't come out a gift wrap to start in year one like that. It just doesn't happen that quick. It's no excuse whatsoever. But as DK gave you the entire scenario of Pouncey's number, drafted at his position, snapping for Ben, it's so much that goes into it. No.
I haven't felt worse for a player in any setting that I've covered in a while than I have for Kendrick Green. Here's a perfect place to end today's show here. The PEF says, hey, Moan, what is the feeling like when you lose a player and a friend to free agency? Even though your line stayed intact, Marcus Gilbert ended up going somewhere else.
I got one. The one that really got me the most, truthfully, it was two. It was two. Mike Wallace and Emmanuel Sanders. Those two dudes, because I knew what
Fast
they could
money.
be.
Fast money,
Bugatti boys. Oh my gosh. Whichever one they were, those two got me because I knew how good they were, but I understood the business. I was just like, I was hoping in some capacity that they could keep those guys inside of that building. And both went on. Mike has the longest play in Baltimore history against us. And E went on to go to get a Super Bowl. I think E may have played in 3 Super Bowls, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So he's got one. Those two guys right there are really just like, I'd love to have him inside that building.
Yeah, it's Dwayne's trying to vie for that Twitter job.
Tell him we'll get him a Keurig pod for coffee, DK.
Yeah. Jeff here thinks I'm underpaying at only $9 million. It wasn't $9 million, it was $900,000. And see what happens here? You float out an idea like this and people think it's real.
No.
Hey, listen, we appreciate the show. Today, though, before we go, all of you are required right now to go check your Twitters and everything else to make sure that Patrick Peterson didn't sign again 10 seconds after we sign off. So get to it. I'm going to put a 30-second countdown here on the process while we all check.
There's no more signings just yet, DK.
Brian Jonker points out that we have 550 people on our live stream right now. That is double the highest figure we've ever had.
Yeah.
And yeah, wow. So thank you for that. First of all, that makes it fun.
Absolutely, man. DK, any surprise signings after the league hours end? Is that what we're good to go, you think?
Yeah, I think so. Patrick Mason points out that we didn't mention Damontae Kazoo, and we should have. Damontae Kazoo is the real deal. Ramon and I brought up yesterday that he might be retained for the 3.
Yeah.
For the 3 safety formation, which would be kind of nice.
I saw this
we missed one here.
Too.
We missed one here. Kevlar says, Ramon Foster just signed with the Steelers. There's that further left guard depth.
If I did, it's going to be for a front office job, DK.
Oh, my goodness.
I see a lot of people dropping this one too, man, the pre one. I'm monitoring that one, man. I'd love to see that one kind of happen sometime soon. I do know Bud is open to it. Boy, it'd be good to get that band back together with him and Highsmith along with the ride too.
In that rotation, 3 edge rusher rotation, that'd be awfully nice. All right, guys, let's do it again tomorrow.
I'm here if you are, DK. This was good.